What if you could fight a war, not with bullets, but with laughter? Well, that's pretty much exactly what George Bernard Shaw did with his incredible play, Arms and the Man. So today, we're going to dive into how he used comedy to completely take apart the whole idea of glorious warfare.
The entire play really just hangs on this one single provocative question. What if that celebrated hero, the one with all the medals, is actually the most practical and maybe even the most cowardly person in the room? Shaw just uses this brilliant twist to shatter everything we think we know about war. You see, the real battle in this play isn't fought with guns at all. It's a war of ideas. On one side, you've got the romantic ideal, the glorious heroes, noble sacrifice, all that stuff. But Shaw slams that right up against what he calls Shavian reality, practical soldiers who see war for what it is, a senseless, absurd business. And this clash, this is what drives the entire story.
So, to really get what Shaw was attacking, we first have to understand the world he was living in. Let's take a look at this world of, well, false glory.
The late 19th century Victorian mindset was basically built on some really powerful illusions. The idea was that war was this noble quest for honor, that social classes were just fixed, totally natural, and love was supposed to be this grand, dramatic, fated affair. Shaw looked at this entire worldview, right at the peak of national pride and imperialism, and pretty much decided to take a giant hammer to it. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The place he chose to set his battle of ideas, it's not London, it's not Dublin, it's Bulgaria. So why on earth did he pick this unlikely battlefield?
Well, he picked a real conflict, but one that was almost totally forgotten. The Serbo-Bulgarian War of 1885. And this was no epic saga, believe me. The whole thing was over in just 2 weeks. It was a messy, disorganized little war fueled by nationalism and terrible leadership. But afterwards, the newspapers romanticized it. For Shaw, it was the perfect example of human foolishness.
And this is the crucial part. This was an absolutely brilliant strategic move. By setting the play in a faraway, kind of unstable country, he could show the universal absurdity of all wars. It was like holding up a mirror, right? It let him criticize European militarism without pointing the finger directly at England, which made his critique a lot safer and, honestly, maybe even more powerful.
Okay, let's shift gears and get into the mind behind the mission. Because to really get this play, you have to understand the philosophy of the rebel himself, George Bernard Shaw. Shaw was a deeply committed Fabian socialist. But listen, this was not a call for violent revolution, not at all. Fabianism was all about gradual moral reform. Their weapon of choice wasn't a bomb. It was reason, it was education, and it was the pure power of a really well-argued idea. And this philosophy directly fueled his art. He created something we now call the drama of ideas. These weren't just plays to entertain you on a Friday night. Nope. They were designed to be like little intellectual grenades, meant to go off inside the audience's mind and force them to think critically about all the social lies they'd been fed their whole lives. All right, so with that background in philosophy locked in, let's see how the play itself becomes a weapon for absolutely shattering those Victorian illusions. And there is no better voice for Shaw's brand of realism than his super pragmatic soldier, Captain Bluntschli. When he says 9 soldiers out of 10 are born fools, that is a direct shot at the romantic image of the heroic warrior. He's not glorious. He's a professional who knows the messy, foolish reality of his job. The play just systematically dismantles each Victorian illusion one by one. Glorious war? Nope, it's an absurd business. A rigid class system? No, practical intelligence matters more. That faded, dramatic romance, that gets exposed in favor of a real, honest partnership. In every single category, Shaw just ruthlessly swaps out fantasy for a cold, hard dose of reality. And the impact of this was, well, it was massive. Arms and the Man wasn't just another play. It was a genuine turning point. It really helped kickstart the birth of modern drama as we know it. Shaw's whole approach was revolutionary for the time. I mean, all of a sudden, you had characters on a popular stage actually debating ideas. The main conflict came from philosophy, not just raw passion. The audience was being challenged to think, not just to feel. And this blend of comedy and social critique, it would go on to influence generations of playwrights, everyone from Ibsen to Beckett. So what's the ultimate takeaway here? What is this victory of a different kind that Shaw was really aiming for?
When you bring it all together like this, you can really see Shaw's genius. He took a tiny historical war to make a huge, universal point about all wars. He used the social hypocrisy of his time to critique illusions about class and love. He pushed back against political imperialism to champion reason instead. Every single piece was aimed at one thing, pushing truth and realism over romantic nonsense.
And that brings us to the play's most powerful, enduring message. The true victory, Shaw is arguing, isn't one with swords and guns on some muddy battlefield. It's one in our minds, in the quiet, and sometimes hilarious, awakening of our own reason. And that is a powerful idea that's just as important today as it was back in 1894.